Welcome to the JP8 Report. This is James Pierce with the JP8 Report, episode 289. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the JP8 Report, the first episode of 2026. Thank y'all for tuning in. It's going to be a pretty good little podcast for the day. Making sure I get everything all squared away and going right. Breaking news just a few minutes ago. Before I really get started and get ramped up for the day, whoever wants to watch the JP8 report, I'll give you all some stuff that's going on. So two things that came about. One, the J6 pipe bomber Brian Cole Jr., I think that's his name, was denied bail. So he's stuck in jail. He ain't going nowhere. So he's done. All right. And then what's on TV right now, and I'm going to explain it. The FBI foiled a New Year's Eve terror plot outside of Charlotte at a grocery store. And it was ISIS inspired, and it's about an 18-year-old. So we'll get into more of that in just a few minutes and stuff, okay? So, as you all know, there was no podcast yesterday. So my America 250 will have January 1st and January 2nd. I should have done January 3rd because tomorrow's Saturday, but I'll take care of that on Monday. I'll do the 3rd, the 4th, and the 5th on Monday. All right? And then if you're a first-time follower of the JP8 report, please don't forget to click that follow button, and then everyone click that like button, and then please, and then give us a like. All right. So Wednesday evening, after I did my podcast on Wednesday, I got an email from Rumble, and I got accepted into the Rumble Creators Program, right? And that helps me build out my podcast, right? Which I've been trying to do, because a while back I just recorded, and then I started doing a couple of lives, and then I went in that hiatus, and I started back up all lives last June, right? And then I started using Rumble Studio, which I've gotten pretty good at using Rumble Studio. And then I just want to build it. But I was doing my lives at 6 a.m., which you could tell by the number of people that are actually watching the podcast. It's like there wasn't very many. Everyone was watching on demand. And that's still the case on this to a point. About 5% of my viewers, 7% of my viewers were live, and the rest was on demand. So I switched from 6 a.m. to noon. It got a little bit better, and I want to build it. But I don't want to experiment on a new time until we know for sure if Bongino's coming back. And I'm pretty sure he is. And I am not going to compete with him because I'm one of his P1 guys. I will listen to Bongino. I will not broadcast during that time at all, ever. Because I'm his number one fan. Let's put it like that, okay? So we're building it out, but what I was saying is that I got to have a certain number of chatters per month. I've got to have a certain number of hours of premium time a month. I've got to have hours viewed per month. That's why when you hear some of us say, please share it out or please watch it, because the hours matter. Like I think it says I got to have 200 hours viewed as a minimum, right? And that adds up quick. But I got to broadcast 30 hours of podcast time per month, right? There's like if you take the weekends out, 8 days out of the week, that comes up to 23 days about. So that's 23 hours. So I got to make it up somehow, right? So I'm going to be doing some changes and stuff. If you have any ideas, please chat so I can get those chatters in there, all right? Matter of fact, I'll leave one. let's see, chat here for me, exclamation point. So I left one, okay? All right, cool. All right, hopefully I get credit for that one. That'd be great. But I got some ideas. If you have any ideas y'all want me to go over with the for the premium time, because if you don't have premium, you get locked out, right? I got some ideas running around. My daughter and I were talking about it this morning, and I got some ideas, and it sounds like a pretty good thing. But we'll go over that, right? So, so welcome and follow and like and share and chat, please. Okay, just give me a chat. Now, if I can just get my mouse to work, there it is. Where am I? There we go. All right. So America 250. I got two items for January 1st, 1776. That was George Washington raised the Grand Union flag at his Army headquarters in Chamberlain, Massachusetts, right? At his headquarters. So the Grand Union flag that I showed a few weeks ago, what had been designed and stuff, as the thumbing of their nose at the British government, which is cool. But he raised it above Army headquarters for the first time on January 1st. And then the next, January 1st, we talked about the bombing up in Portland, Maine, which is, oh man, I forgot the name of the town, Flowden or something like that. But the British did it again in the mid-Atlantic colonies. They attacked and pretty much destroyed all of Norfolk, Virginia, as retaliation for revolutionary Continental Loyalist forces to fight against the British Crown. So that happened. They infuriated the people around there and inflamed the desire for for independence. And then another thing that happened on January 2nd, which is the day 1776, draft copies of Common Sense started to be passed around the Philadelphia area, which we all know Thomas Paine wrote Common Sense, but I don't know if you know this, but it was anonymously published because I guess he likes to breathe, because if the British would have ever knew who wrote that pamphlet, 47-page pamphlet, he would have been killed. But they started, and it was published on January 10th, which is not tomorrow, but next Saturday, right? And I'm going to be going through the whole pamphlet. I'm going to read, but you'll hear about it in a little while when I go on the premium side. All right, and then the next thing was the Declaration of British Treatment of Ethan Allen, and it's called the Anti-Tory Proclamation. It was written to Major General Howe and etc. A declaration by the representatives of the United Colonies in Congress. When necessity compelled us to take arms against Great Britain in defense of our just rights, we thought it a circumstance to comfort that our enemy was brave and civilized. It is the happiness of modern times that the evils of necessary war are softened by the refinement of manners and sentiment, and that an enemy in an object of vengeance in arms and in the field only. It is with pain that we hear that Mr. Allen and others taken with him while fighting bravely in their country's cause are sent to Britain in irons to be punished for pretended treasons created by one of those very laws whose obligation we deny, a meaning to contest by the sword. This question will not be decided by wreaking vengeance on a few helpless captives, but by achieving success on the fields of war and gathering there those laurels which grow for the superior brave. It is in this light we view the object between us. In this line we have hereto conducted ourselves for its attainment. To those who, bearing your arms, have fallen into your hands, we have afforded every comfort for which captivity and misfortune called, enlargement and comfortable subsistence having been extended to officers and men, and their restraint is a restraint of honor only. Should you think proper in these days to revive antient barbarism and again disgrace our nature with the practice of human sacrifice, the fortune of war has put into our power subjects for multiplied retaliation. To them, to you, and to the world, we declare they shall not be wretched, unless their imprudence or your example shall oblige us to make them so. But we declare also that our lives shall teach our enemies to respect the rights of nations. We have ordered Brigadier General Prescott to be bound in irons and confined in close jail, there to experience corresponding miseries with those which shall be inflicted on Mr. Allen. Yeah, that's Ethan Allen, okay? His life shall answer for that of Allen, and the lives of as many others for those for those of the brave men captivated with him. We deplore the event by which shall oblige us to shed blood for blood, and shall resort to retaliation, but as the means of stopping the progress of butchery. It is a duty we owe to those engaged in the cause of their country to assure them that if any unlucky circumstance baffling the efforts of their bravery shall put them in the power of their enemies, we shall use the pledges in our hands to warrant their lives from sacrifice. All right, so evidently they caught wind of how Ethan Allen was being treated and other prisoners, and they reciprocated and put a general in irons, just like Ethan Allen is. Okay, and that would be Brigadier General Prescott. All right, I do believe he was at Boston, so that was an easy capture. All right, so that was January 2nd, 1776. We're already 2 days in the war. We're about 6 months away from the writing of the Declaration of Independence. All right, so we got the America 250 stuff done. Go back over here. These guys are back open today. They were closed yesterday. And the Armadillo Burger Group, they make homemade smash burgers and dogs right here in Copper's Cove. All their ingredients are fresh and homemade, including their buns. And they're open from Tuesday through Saturday, 11 to 2 and 5:30 to 7 unless they sell out. And then they're located on the west side of Copper's Cove behind bushes. And then, just so you know, if you're watching a podcast on Wednesday, I told y'all that as soon as I got off, I'm going to go buy an armadillo, right? So I showed up, and I was like their last order because they ran out of what did they do? They ran out of buns. That's what it was. They had meat, but they sold out of everything. And mosquito. You know it's going to be 82 degrees here in Copper's Cove today. It's the second day in January. 82 degrees. Wow. But yeah, so that was their very last customer on Wednesday, on New Year's Eve. So give them a try. I'm sure they're all stocked up, ready for everyone today. All right, so onward to the JP8 report. And then another thing I wanted to tell you was that also I keep getting text messages. Okay. This may be the last time you see my green screen, because when I finish today, well, we got to go pick up my vehicle after the podcast, because we had to get a 30,000 mile, 30,000 mile service on it, right? And but we got a temporary fix on it because we have to get a new wheel for our vehicle because it cracked. The wheel cracked. So, but we're gonna get the vehicle, bring it back, and then I'm gonna go hog wild on I'm finishing up my studio so I can broadcast on it. Hopefully Monday. It should be. We'll see. But there's not a whole lot. It's basically I need to get one piece of equipment in from Amazon today, and I can interconnect everything, fire it up, and start getting everything situated. And my hard part is going to be. I don't know if y'all can see this. My Stream Deck. I use the Stream Deck, and then getting OBS configured so I can flip through everything I need to do. Okay. So that's what I'm going on. But hopefully Monday you'll see me in the studio, and then I'll show you a picture of it a little bit. All right. All right. So JP8 report. Okay. So I told you all about Brian Cole, bail denied. He's a J6 pipe bomber. And then the other thing that popped, and I told you just a little bit, right? The FBI disrupts an ISIS-inspired New Year's Eve attack at a grocery store in Charlotte, right? So, and they're done with the news conference they had going on there. But this is what I just printed off about 45 minutes ago. The FBI disrupted an alleged plot to attack people inside of a grocery store in North Carolina on New Year's Eve in support of the Islamic State. Christian Sturtevant, 18 of Mint Hill, a town outside Charlotte, was arrested and charged with attempting to provide material support to a foreign terrorist organization. A U.S. attorney for the Western District of North Carolina, Russ Ferguson, said, quote, "The FBI and our partners continued working 24/7 over the holidays, protecting the American people, in this case out of Charlotte, foiling another alleged New Year's Eve attacker in the latest example of their tremendous work." FBI Director Kash Patel, another great guy, said in a statement to Fox News Digital, "Our teams quickly identified the threat and acted decisively, no doubt saving American lives in the process. Thanks to the Joint Terrorism Task Force and regional partners in New York and Western North Carolina for their efforts." Prosecutors said the alleged plot was foiled after Sturtevant recently began communicating online with an individual he believed to be affiliated with ISIS, but in reality was a government online covert employee who is referred in the criminal complaint as OS. In one of the communications on December 14th, Sturtevant allegedly sent the OC an image of two hammers and a knife. Okay, during his online communication with OC, Sturtevant said, "I will do jihad soon." And he proclaimed he was a soldier of the state, meaning ISIS, the U.S. Attorney's Office said. In a subsequent online communication with the OC, Sturtevant indicated that he planned to attack the specific grocery store in North Carolina and discuss plans to purchase a firearm to use along with the knives during the attack. Prosecutors said a law enforcement search of Sturtevant's residence on December 29th uncovered various handwritten documents, one which was titled New Year's Attack 2026, and listed, among other things, items as vest, mask, tactical gloves, and 2 knives allegedly to be used in the attack. It also listed a goal of stabbing as many civilians as possible and the total number of victims as 20 to 21. The note also included a section listed as Martyrdom Op, with a plan to attack police that arrived at the site of the attack so the defendant would die a martyr. The attorney's office continued. In addition, law enforcement seized from Sturtevant's bedroom a blue hammer, a wooden handled hammer, and 2 butcher knives hidden underneath the defendant's bed. Sturtevant remains held in federal custody, and if convicted, he faces a statutory maximum sentence of 20 years in federal prison. The FBI's mission is to protect American people, and in this case demonstrates our dedication to do everything that we can do to protect the residents of North Carolina. We work closely with the Department of Justice, NYPD, Mint Hill Police Department, and the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force to investigate and disrupt this serious threat of violent attack. We will never stop working to hold people accountable to seek harm and terrorize our community. James Burnock, Special Agent in charge of the Charlotte office of the FBI, and the attorney's office, citing criminal complaint, said on December 18th, the FBI in Charlotte received information that an individual later identified as Sturtevant was making multiple social media posts in support of ISIS and a designated foreign terrorist organization. And then it said, this is why it's important that when you see something, you say something, okay? One social media post in early December 2025, Sturtevant posted an image depicting 2 miniature figures of Jesus with an on-screen text that included, "May Allah curse the cross worshippers." Oh my God, that's pure blasphemy there. The post is allegedly consistent with ISIS historic practice, calling the extermination of non-believers, including Christians and other Muslims who do not agree with the terrorist organization's extreme ideology. All right, Greg Norman wrote that for Fox News Digital. Another victory for the FBI and vigilant police officers and people seeing something and saying something, which is great. This 18-year-old guy was radicalized and wanting to do harm in North Carolina in the Charlotte area. I am glad they got the guy, but there's plenty more out there we need to get. I would rather the FBI be out there tracking down bad guys. Let good cops do good things, okay? Get out there and investigate instead of this electioneering thing that they were doing in the 2021 and 2022 and 2023 with Jack Smith's Jack Boot people. But I'm glad they got him. Let the FBI do their job, right? And you see more success like this. Oh, great, look at that. You can see through my page. All right. And I didn't even get to my stuff on that I've gotten written down. We're 25 minutes in. That's crazy. And then to carry on with FBI, John, I'll get to Mom Donnie in just a minute. This came out on Wednesday afternoon, And Jack Smith said his key J6 witness relied on hearsay and it lacked first-hand evidence. Okay, that's okay. Who wrote this anyway? Let me tell you. Ashley Oliver wrote this one. All right, so she writes, former special counsel Jack Smith undercut claims he made by Cassidy Hutchinson, a former White House aide and J6 committee witness, as he was testifying in a recent deposition to Congress. Smith told the House Judiciary Committee this month, according to a transcript published Wednesday, that he evaluated Hutchinson's explosive claims as part of his investigation to prosecute President Trump related to the 2020 election. Smith said they had deficiencies because Hutchinson did not offer first-hand information. He asked during the deposition how he would have approached cross-examining Hutchinson. Smith said he would have moved to prohibit a portion of her testimony from being used. If I were a defense attorney and Miss Hutchinson were a witness, the first thing I would do was seek a prelude to preclude some of her testimony because it was hearsay. I don't have a full range of her testimony in front of me right now, but I do remember that was a decent part of it, Smith said. Smith was also asked about specific claims Hutchinson had made, including Trump was aware that some of his supporters would be armed at his rally, and Trump attempted to grab the steering wheel from his driver out of anger. Hutchinson said Hutchinson was a second or even third-hand witness, Smith said, adding that other witnesses have different perspectives than her. Why did he even take her serious in the first place? We interviewed, I think, the people she talked to, and we also interviewed, in my recollection, if my recollection is correct, officers who were there, including the officer who was in the car, Smith said. And that officer, if my recollection is correct, and I want to make sure if I'm right about this, said that President Trump was very angry and wanted to go to the Capitol, but the version of events that he explained was not the same as that Cassidy Hutchinson said she heard from somebody's second hand. Why was she even? Did she write a book or something? Smith noted that a number of the things that she gave evidence on were secondhand hearsay, that things that she had heard from other people, and as a result, the testimony may or may not be admissible, and it certainly wouldn't be as powerful as first-hand testimony. Hutchinson became a witness in the Democrat-led J6 committee investigation into the Capitol attack, testifying privately several times and publicly. You know what? She needs to be perjured. She needs to be prosecuted for perjury. That's what it was. Her testimony dominated headlines, but her claims became point of scrutiny for Republicans who found the committee's work lacked credibility because its only Republican members were two vocal anti-Trump lawmakers. And then Hutchinson served as a top aide, White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows in the final months of the Trump presidency, giving her an inside look at internal discussions among White House officials in the aftermath of the 2020 election. In a highly publicized hearing on June 2022, Hutchinson testified under oath about what she said were warnings from inside the White House about the possibility of violence on January 6th, and Trump alleged awareness of some supporters attending his rally would be armed. In another claim that was later disputed by other witnesses, Hutchinson also recalled conversations about how Trump attempted to grab the steering wheel from a Secret Service agent because he wanted to go to the Capitol and not the West Wing. And then Hutchinson testified that she was told that the president said something to the effect of, "I am blank the president, take me to the Capitol now," in which the agent responded, "Sir, we have to go back to the West Wing." The president reached up towards the front of the vehicle and grabbed the steering wheel. There is no humanly way possible ever that could ever happen. She should have been prosecuted for perjury. She was under oath. This is like people say nothing happens in Congress. We got the majority. Put her before Congress, send her to the Department of Justice, get a grand jury indictment on her, and prosecute her. All right. So now we come to New York City. Can you believe that there is a socialist in charge of the largest city in the United States? The population of New York City is close to 9 million people. You can take Montana, North and South Dakota, Wyoming. You could probably take Nebraska and Kansas and still not reach 9 million people. I'm pretty sure of that, right? And he's the mayor. I'm talking about Zoran Mamdani, right? He was sworn in Thursday morning at midnight as 112th mayor of New York City. He's only 34 years old, all right? I have a daughter 6 years younger than him, right? His first act was to override all of Eric Adams' executive orders after the alleged indictment happened, right? Including the protection of Jewish people from anti-Semitic hate speech, which I would like to see how that one's going to progress, because there's a lot of Jewish people in New York City, and people, for some strange reason, love to pick on them and persecute them, like Christians get persecuted, but it's worse what happens to Jewish people, right? He said, part of his inauguration speech, he said, "I will govern as a democratic socialist." Bernie Sanders was there, AOC was there. There was some retired professor from the University of Tennessee that he read some LBGT plus a poem. There was his legal person was there. His wife was there wearing $630 boots. There was, I don't know if it's in this article I'm about to read, but he was, there was upwards of 40,000 people that went to his inauguration speech, where they did a ceremonial swearing in on the Quran, which I'd like to see him justify swearing in on the Quran, because one of the pillars of Islam is Sharia law, and that directly is a conflict with the Constitution. So I don't see how he could actually swear on the Quran. That, I guess that's for another day or so. But there's 40,000 people that they all they could do was stand there. They couldn't even go to the bathroom. They were stuck there till after he swore in, and all these blowhard pipe blowing speech makers. All they could do is talk. But these people couldn't eat. They couldn't go to the bathroom. They were just stuck there while he got sworn in. And then, but the VIPs, they had a buffet, and inside of the building they had bathrooms they could use. They became the haves, and everybody else watching were the have-nots, right? So Bernie Sanders swore in the self-described Democratic Socialist Zoran Mamdani at the New York City's mayor on Thursday, calling his election the greatest political upset in modern history. The inauguration ceremony took place Thursday, New Year's Day afternoon outside City Hall. During his inauguration speech, Mamdani, 34, leaned directly into his ideology, telling the crowd he had no intention of moderating his approach while mayor. He said, quote, "I was elected as a Democrat Socialist. I will govern as a Democratic Socialist," he said. The newly minted mayor also made clear that his administration would pursue an aggressive expansion of government power. He said, "Beginning today, we will govern expansively and audaciously," Mamdani said, acknowledging that his agenda may not always succeed, but instilling it would be bold. To those who insist that the era of big government is over, hear me when I say this. No longer will City Hall hesitate to use its power to improve the New Yorkers' lives. And at the 1 p.m. inauguration was open to all New Yorkers, the Mamdani transition team said in a news release, adding that a huge inaugural block party will take place afterward on Broadway along the Canyon of Heroes. I don't know what the Canyon of Heroes are. New York, if you know, let me know. Just chat me something, okay? And don't forget, hit follow and hit the like button, the thumbs up button. Leave me a chat, right? Please. New York Attorney General Letitia James administered the oath of office Mamdani at midnight, New Year's Eve. Mamdani used the Quran during his midnight swearing-in ceremony, according to his campaign, making him the first Muslim mayor of New York City and the first to be sworn in using a Quran. In addition to Sanders and James, staunch Mamdani supporter and progressive New York Democratic Congresswoman AOC Sandy Cortez delivered the opening remarks of Mamdani's public inauguration, where she declared a new era for New York City. Ocasio-Cortez said the people of New York City have chosen historic, ambitious leadership in response to untenable and unprecedented times. New York City has chosen the ambitious pursuit of universal health care, affordable rents and housing, and clean and dignified public transit for all. Budget busting, budget busting, budget busting. Those are my words. And we have chosen that over distractions of bigotry and barbarism, of extreme income inequality, we have chosen this path because we know that it is the right thing to do. In the speech of the public inauguration, Imam Khalid Latif from the Islamic Center in New York City said, "We gather today with hearts shaped by this city, by its noise of its neighborhoods, by subways and sanctuaries, by the dreams carried in many languages and the prayers whispered on crowded blocks. We thank you for New York City, for a place that has taught the world how difference can become strength, how we can overcome solidarity. Democratic socialism, socialist Muslim can be bold enough to run and brave enough to win by not abandoning conviction, but by standing firmly within it, not by shrinking who he is, but by trusting authenticity can move the city toward justice. And he said he will not waver on about his anti-Israel statements and his associations and socialist policies about freezing rent, city-run grocery stores, and free child care and free transit, buses and subways, right? There's one thing I was going to say on here. I cannot remember. I tell you, oh yeah, I know. AOC, I call her Sandy Cortez because that's her name. That's what she went by in school. So if you were looking at what she was talking about with about how people have been running New York City for years and years and years, right? When was the last time a Republican was elected mayor of New York City? So, if you don't remember, Mayor Michael Bloomberg, who became, I believe he became independent or a Democrat, then became independent, one of the two, but he got elected as Republican in 2001. So, he was like a one-term Republican, then he changed parties, right? So it's been 20 years since a Democrat has actually been in it's been 20 years since a Republican has been a mayor in his city, and everything's gotten worse and worse and worse over the years. You can't blame Republicans on what is happening in New York City. You can only blame the people that look in a mirror and they see the vast majority of the people in New York as Democrats. Curtis Sliwa was not a failed candidate. He was a very good Republican. But the problem is there are so much more Democrats in New York City that will always vote Democrat than there are Republicans. That is the issue at hand, right? That's why the Republicans in New York City have to get out there and get people to vote Republican. Give them a chance to win. Give them a chance, because it's just going to keep worse and worse. You're going to keep raising the taxes. Like in California, that they're trying to put on the ballot for next November is this wealth tax deal. You better believe if it passes and gets through the courts, they're going to try that in New York City, because there's a lot of billionaires that live in New York City, and they're just going to pack up and move to Texas and move to Florida and Tennessee, because at least they have a legitimate they have a chance to succeed in those other states and not be taxed to death, right? Hold on. Okay, much better. Did anybody agree? Leave me a text, a chat. All right. Man, I can't wait to get rid of that green screen. Hold on just a second. Let me need to check on something real quick. Go over here. Okay. All right. I was just checking my stuff here. All right. So, next thing I wanted to talk about is, and that one's not really important. It is, but it's not really too important. I can talk about that a little bit if I get a chance. Where are we at right now? 46 minutes? Okay. A couple days ago, in Minnesota, that's where a lot of news is happening right now in Minnesota. People keep going off on Nick Shirley saying he's a fraud and stuff, and he's not, right? It's so much that Governor Walz and the Attorney General Keith Ellison have been invited on February 10th to appear before the House Oversight Committee with James Comer, right? I'd told on my notes, but I went back. They were invited, like highly encouraged to show up, right? Because they're finding more and more and more. I mean, $9 billion right now. I bet that turns into upwards of $20 billion of fraud. Okay, I can't believe it. That's crazy. Then over on CNN, Scott Jennings got an argument or a debate about what do you call it? About what's going on in Minnesota, right? About what's her name? Patty Flanagan. All right. So who that is that girl right there. I talked about her on Wednesday on the podcast about she's running for the United States Senate. She's a lieutenant governor of Minnesota right now. She's pandering to the Somalis that oh wow, I have a handprint there. Okay, so that must have been my cursor. Okay, so pandering to the Somali people in Minnesota to try to get votes to vote for her for the United States Senate. Okay, they were in a debate on CNN, and as the CNN panel erupted on Monday evening, after a conservative commentator called out Minnesota Lieutenant Governor for appearing to wear a hijab. She wasn't appearing to wear one; she was wearing one. Minnesota Democrat Lieutenant Governor and U.S. Senate candidate Peggy Flanagan appeared on Somali TV wearing what appears to be a hijab at a mall as a widespread fraud scandal implicating some Somali residents plagues the state. The Somali community is part of the fabric of the state of Minnesota, Flanagan said, looking into the cameras. For Muslim women, wearing a headscarf known as hijab is typically a sign of obedience to God and worn to show modesty. Flanagan is a divorced and remarried Catholic who supports socially liberal policies like transgender identity for children and abortion rights. The contrast between wearing conservative Muslim garb and socially liberal policies became a contentious segment on CNN Newsnight with Abby Phillip. The catering of the Somali to the Somali community that goes by the catering to the Somali community that goes on by the community. Let me try it one more time. The catering to the Somali community that goes on by the Democrats in Minnesota is a little weird, is it not? Scott Jennings asked. They've got the lieutenant governor up there dressed like a handmaid's tale. Jennings referring to Margaret Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale, the dystopian novel about life under the totalitarian theocracy in which a class of women were forced to bear children amid a fertility crisis. Liberal protesters often wear the modest outfit uh, with its red robes and bonnet as a visual shorthand to warn America it is about to become the same type of dystopia. Why do they cater to them? Jennings asked. It is such a small portion of the population. Democrats put them at the center of everything. CNN host Abby Phillip balked at comparing the hijab to the handmaid's outfits. I don't think it would be acceptable for you to make a statement like that about Orthodox Jews in Brooklyn. Why on earth is it acceptable to make a statement like that about people? It's white liberal women dressing in a hijab, Jennings interjected. You are denigrating the religious practices of a group for no reason, Philip argued. She's not religious, Jennings said, and I agree. Why would a Catholic put a hijab on in the first place? And plus, how can she be a practicing Catholic and she's divorced, right? A spokesman representing Flanagan responded by telling Fox News Digital while the lieutenant governor was showing her support for small businesses and communities being terrorized by ICE, she was handed a scarf by a friend who briefly wore it out of respect. That is not a scarf. The real outrage, I just looked at, I know. You tell me. I still got the picture. That is not a scarf. There's no way. All right. Man. And she is not religious. Yep. While the lieutenant governor was showing her support for small businesses, I just read that, the real outrage should not be a scarf, but masked men throwing American citizens into vans and violating the Constitution. They're not doing that. See how the rumors get started? These liberal media out there making it sound like the Gestapo is running through the streets grabbing people, and they're not. All right. So Scott Jennings took care of himself. Where are we at? We're at 53 minutes. I'm only halfway through. Let me get through a couple of my other headlines real quick. Let me go to that. Okay, we're here. Just so you know, did you know Cracker Barrel took black eyed peas off their menu? They didn't tell no one, they just did it. All right. I got that. And then the next one I wanted to show you was, I'm sure you heard about this morning. President Trump made a statement on Truth Social that we are removing the National Guard from Chicago, Los Angeles, and Portland, despite the fact that crime has been greatly reduced by having these great patriots in those cities, and only by that fact. Portland, Los Angeles, Chicago were gone if it weren't for the federal government stepping in. We will come back, perhaps in as much different and stronger form. When crime begins to soar again, only a question of time. It is hard to believe that these Democrat mayors and governors, all of whom are greatly incompetent, would want us to leave, especially considering the great progress that has been made. President Donald J. Trump. All right, and that was from yesterday. So that's a true fact right there. Um, so I guess he's just waiting for a Supreme Court ruling to go all the way through the process so they can make a statement saying that he is authorized in times of national emergency to deploy the Army National Guard. Because every time he makes a decision, the left comes back with a lawsuit. Matter of fact, I meant to say this right before I got to this point, but yeah, so expect to see that and more with National Guard participation in the cities to help out federal law enforcement officials. They keep the areas safe where they're at, right? Also, in Minnesota, heard this morning, they have a law on the books or that just started granting everyone that lives in Minnesota 20 weeks of PTO a year. 20 weeks. That's 4, 8, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. That's 5 months of PTO a year. So if Aunt Sally or child Becca or whoever, your wife, your girlfriend, they need support and help, and they need you at home to help them, your employer has to give you PTO, 20 weeks a year. And the employer files paperwork through the state of Minnesota for reimbursement. So they can get up to $1,423 per week for PTO every week. And like they were saying, by the time it's going to cost over $1.6 billion minimally on reimbursement for PTO. Look at it like this. What if an employer or so-called employer wanted to help one of their friends out, and it really wasn't cousin Joe or kid Dan or whatever that was actually sick, and they actually file out the paperwork so they can get free money for nefarious reasons. That's the fraud that could be done with this with this program that's coming to light in in Minnesota. All right, so that's crazy. Now, also, Congress returns to a pro forma session today for the second half of the 119th Congress. All right, on Wednesday, the jobless report for the week came out. Not yesterday, because yesterday was national holiday. First-time filers fell by 16,000. They were expecting. Those numbers are different. Okay, so they if they fell to 199,000 for the week, right? It says it fell by 208,000. It was at 208,000 a week prior, so numbers don't make right. The unemployment report that everyone was expecting to be released today, because today's the first Friday of the month, but they will be released next Thursday or Friday, one of the two. Next Friday, where they give the unemployment rate, the rate of employment, in different little aspects of employment from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, right? All right, so just be prepared for that. So that's right there. Get that done. Boy, I got a whole lot of stuff I'm going to have to carry over until next week. But I'm going to go over, I still got stuff to do. But that's the main part of the of the JP8 report for the day so far, right? Well, let me go in. So I showed this picture the other day. That's so far. That's what my I've done some other work in there, right? But it's going to look totally different on Monday when I go live, right? And then get this out right here. You can find me on my socials at X at James Pierce Jr., Facebook at James A. Pierce Jr., YouTube at the JP8 Report 67, on Truth at James A. Pierce, and my email address right there. All right. So, and then according to the creator program, I have to learn how to do the raid so we can raid into another. I got to find out what podcasts come on at 1 p.m. so I can raid into them, because I have to do 5 raids in a month to go on in, right? And then I'm going to go into my premium content also, and then come back on Monday, right? So I'm going to do that. So all y'all, if y'all are watching live on me, just give me a second here. I'm going to try this. I should be able to do it. This one. So, hey, I'll catch you on the flip side. On my main people, I'm about to go on the premium, okay? So, catch you on the flip side. I'm out. I'm going to premium. Okay.